Welcome, folks, to a brand new episode of Fitpod. Like I always have treats for you in the studio, and today I definitely have a treat. It is Yusuf Aslam, co-founder of Heavenly Desserts. Now, we've got some fantastic questions about business, his life, what he likes and what he doesn't like of his own menu. And before any more me wasting your time, I want to get straight into this and ask him lots and lots of questions. So first of all, Yusuf, thank you very much for coming and taking your time out. I know you're a busy man.
Thank you, Nas, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
It's been a while. We've been trying to arrange this. So before we start wasting more time, let's get straight into this. Give us a bit about your history and what did you do before Heavenly Dessert?
How much time do we have?
We've got plenty. We've got 2 terabytes to kill.
So I'll give you a general overall summary.
Yep.
I'm a 90s kid, born in 86. So grew up in the 90s. So those of you watching who grew up in that same era, probably you did too.
Yeah, you're a year younger than me.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you know what it was all about, right? So, playing out, Kirby, what we used to call on the streets. Yep. There was none of this gaming and iPads and whatever else have you. So grew up in the 90s in Derby, a city in the Midlands, and went to school there, went to college there, and then after college, had a little stint at uni in Derby as well. And I was never really somebody that was interested in school or academia, for the better word. I kind of almost went to school for the social element of it, right? And pretty much same with college, right? I was more of a roll your sleeves up type person. I think I got my first job when I was about 14 in a restaurant, like probably most of us did, washing dishes and so on and so forth. And that's probably, looking back now, where the connection probably is with what I then went on to do in, life, work, and business. So kind of did that. So went to uni, didn't really enjoy it, dropped out. And then went into full-time work.
Sounds a bit like my story, that is.
Went into full-time work for the Department of Work and Pensions.
Okay.
So specifically the job centre. Had a stint there for a couple of years, which was good because it gave me... before that I did various things. I did retail, I did a little bit of security work. And actually, without realising how much it was going to contribute to my skills later, I have had a double at a few different things from a work perspective. Had a stint at the Department for Work and Pensions for a couple of years, and then from that point onwards, I was encouraged by a group of friends to get into business, because they were already in business. So lo and behold, fast forward, from that point to the next point, I'm a franchisee of Dixie Chicken. Right, so a brand that's probably going to be synonymous with a lot of the viewers, especially in Birmingham and the Midlands, or even around the country. So become a franchisee, operated a couple of stores, and you're talking kind of mid 2000s now.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know, 2002, 2003, probably something around that time. Yeah. If my memory serves me well. And that was a really good experience because business was successful, alhamdulillah. I was travelling back and forth from Derby to the West Midlands, doing that on a daily basis. And that was really the breeding ground to learn about, running your own business. I was in a partnership. But B, understanding the challenges of a business. Fortunately, that business did really well from day go, up until the point that I exited that business. And it was a really interesting time. So I can go into lots of areas of that particular time.
So why did you exit Dixie?
So it was a very interesting time around that period, and what I mean when I say that is, so that was and the irony here is we're going to talk about Pepe's here. That was around the time when the kind of fast food grilled sector was really starting to roll. So at this point, Pepe's had just opened in Birmingham.
Thanks to us.
Thanks to you. Right? And I think lots of people will say that because you guys did a fantastic job and still do a fantastic job. Alhamdulillah. So it was a mixture of things. So, we kind of recognized that actually we felt fried chicken has kind of almost had its peak.
Yeah.
There was stuff going on with Dixie Chicken in itself, from a point of view of it, the ownership changed hands and, the support and so on and so forth quite wasn't there. The brand was starting to get really, really badly diluted. We were quite fortunate because we got in it quite, at a decent time and we managed to operate well. So we were kind of at that intersection. So, the likes of, like Pepe's and some of these other grilled operators were coming up and we felt, this is probably the right time, to exit, and look at doing something different, which is how then I got involved with HD.
So why HD? You were looking into grill food. So what made you think, okay, heavenly dessert?
Before I answer that, I'll tell you a funny story that I've just remembered. So Imran, who's my business partner, who you also know as well. During that period...
He's the shy one, right? On the camera.
On the camera, yeah. Camera shy. So whilst we were in this phase of exiting and looking to understand what we wanted to do next, because we did that venture together, we actually brought Pepe's licenses.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. That's not a story many people know actually. And I think it was Nottingham. I can't remember what territory it was. It was around the Midlands somewhere.
Okay.
And that was when Pepe's had around about 15 or 16 stores early in the UK. Yeah. And then for one reason or the other, I think we decided actually we no longer wanted to go in that direction. And then obviously we came across HD and got involved with HD. So we were at that. So we were at that point where we were looking at actually what are we doing next. And because both of us had been in food for long enough and, would travel the country, understand what's happening within the food scene, what's upcoming, what's not coming up, what's dying, where the opportunities are. One of the opportunities, we spotted was actually that the next wave of successful businesses within this particular sector, or within perhaps the Asian sector, were either going to be desserts or shisha cafes, right? So period in time, you're talking around about, by now, I think you're talking 2005, 6, something like that, 2007-ish, okay?
Yeah.
This point in time. And if you recall back actually, during that period in time, around the country, the dessert sector and the shisha cafe sector were actually quite thin.
It was non-existent.
You had some popular joints in London.
Yeah,
in the shisha space.
And you had a couple of places in Birmingham, and
and then you had like up in north, you had the likes of Pasha and so on and so forth. So shisha was something we were never going to do, right? I know there's mixed opinions on that particular business, but it was something that just never aligned with. We weren't shisha smokers, but above and beyond that, it was something that just didn't align with
your morals
and whatever else. And that's another subject. So one way or the other, we landed on the fact that actually, desserts is going to be the next opportunity here. And I think if we look back now, we want to change that decision.
Looking back at it now, it seems like it was the right decision at the time. So tell me a bit about Heavenly Dessert. It started in 2008?
Yeah, HD was founded in 2008 on Ladypool Road in Birmingham. So that was the first store for the brand. Since then it moved a few times on Ladypool Road.
Yeah.
So that was 2008. In 2000,
the first store was upstairs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the
very
at
the end,
first
almost.
Because I went there myself and I asked for the menu and the guys just got it handwritten.
Yeah.
I was like, is this guy seriously having a laugh?
Yeah. So so it's moved around on that particular road and obviously it no longer exists there now. And then we went on to open our second store in Derby. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And the only real methodology behind that was look, okay, well, it's been successful in Birmingham so far, okay, because at this so now you're kind of talking 2011,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We'd come to the realization that the brand is clearly successful in Birmingham, and it was almost kind of testing to see actually can we translate that same success into another territory, because if we could, then there's an clear opportunity to actually develop, you know, this as a business model. And because we were familiar with the whole world of franchising from Dixie, you know, it was comfortable territory for us, like the world of franchising. And we thought, actually, if it works in Derby, not to put Derby down because that's my home.
Yeah, it's
my home
a
city.
smaller town than Birmingham,
Yeah,
isn't
if
it?
it works in Derby, then actually we can replicate it in most places around the country.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, because Derby, you know, as you know, small city, and you know, no real major food scene and whatever else. So, lo and behold, we decided, and of course I'm from Derby as well, so operationally that was going to make sense as well. So, lo and behold, we make the decision. We're going to open in Derby. We start scouting for sites, and we tell ourselves, look, what we want to do is we want to test another demographic, right? So what we want to do is we want to take Heavenlies from being an inner suburb Asian community focused business and try it with the wider demographic, okay? And of course, with that strategy in mind, location was going to be everything, right? So we said, right, let's scout for sites around city centre. As it happened, there was a particular unit that was part of the then Westfield shopping centre, right?
Yes. The one in London, was it?
Sorry?
The one in London.
Yeah, so part of the same group. So what happened was, I think, 2003 or something, Westfield brought what was our shopping centre in Derby and turned it into a Westfield.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah,
It was, I can't remember what it was called back then. The Eagle Centre.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you won't remember that. Into brought it from Westfield.
Oh, right. Okay.
After, right?
Got
So, Westfield have got this unit, and we've gone to view it. We've decided, actually, you know what, this is a good unit. So it was part of the Westfield shopping centre, but it was an external facing unit, as in out on the roadside. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was good because it meant we could open late. We weren't restricted by inside shopping centre hours. It had an outside alfresco seating area, which was good. So it ticked all the boxes. You know, rent was reasonable, so on and so forth. It was only very small. I don't know, it must have been 1,200, 1,300 square feet. I remember when we originally opened that second one, we had 5 tables in there.
Really?
Yeah, 5 tables. I remember the layout exactly, right? Because remember, we're going from a small location in Birmingham, albeit to a second location, but we're kind of keeping the footprint that we're familiar with, which is a small unit. And it was also a bit of a test, right?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, you know, we opened October 2012 in Westfield. In fact, Westfield initially didn't want to give us the unit, right? And Imran will remember this because they were like, we like your concept, we get it, but actually we don't think there's a market for this. Like a menu and a venue for just desserts. Like we don't think there's a market. It's a UK cold country, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I remember what the leasing manager then did was arranged a meeting with us in front of like a panel within the shopping centre, and we had to really prove our case that actually no, this business is going to work. And because we were confident within our business model and confident in our own abilities, you know, we managed to, you know, sell it to them. So we got the unit opened in October 2012. Was there queues out the doors from day one? No. Was the business ticking over? Was it paying its way? Yes. And then, you know, gradually, you know, we built upon that business, and then later went on to taking the lease for the next door unit, knocking it through, and extending it.
So did they ever come back to you and say, look, we told you it's not going to work?
No.
In the early days?
No, because that never happens, does it? Once you prove something wrong, you know, the opposing side is never going to come back.
No, I mean, like when you first opened, first couple of weeks or whatever, there was like no that population that everyone expects.
So I hear your question. We didn't have queues out the doors, but there was a real buzz around the fact that, you know, because
something's happening.
Because there was a small awareness already in Derby about the brand because of Birmingham, because Birmingham's a city that's visited by lots of people from around the world, around the country. especially from other
From
parts
near
of the UK.
near around towns anyway.
Yeah, especially Ladypool Road, for food,
Yeah.
the shopping element of it and so on and so forth. So there was already a small awareness anyway, right? And there was a bit of a buzz around it. So look, we weren't quiet, but we didn't have queues out the door. But it was a successful enough opening.
I remember that
build
because I
upon.
think I did all the marketing
Yes,
material
you
for
did.
that.
Yeah, yes, you did the marketing material. You did all the graphic design on the menus and all sorts.
Yeah, and the early days I did all the. In fact, HD's first menu I did that. So
you'd remember all of them Ferrero Rocher campaigns, the pineapple mango, all of them.
I
Summer
remember
campaigns, they
everything,
were all
and I
your,
remember the headache that you guys gave me as well.
They were all your creations.
I still remember all those headaches, and it's like, where's this? We're opening today. We're opening tomorrow, and all of
Where's
that
the
stuff.
menus? Where's this? Where's that?
So I've done my bit, bro. But now you are around not just UK, you are in Canada.
Yeah.
And is there another way? Is somewhere another country you're in?
So we're operating in Canada. We've got one franchise location operating.
Yeah.
We've got another one in build at the moment, which we're just waiting for an opening date on.
Is that in
anytime
Canada
soon.
as well?
That's in Canada. We've got, I think, probably 8 or 9 further locations in Canada at various stages. So some are about to go into construction, some are at lease negotiation, and some are site search.
Fantastic.
So Canada's going to be our next growth market, inshallah, over the next.
So how's that first store doing over there?
It's been an interesting journey with that first store, because one of the things that you don't realize when you go international with a food brand is the level of adaptation you have to make to your brand. So your first one is always a testing ground, right? And it's been a successful testing ground for us in Canada with that first location, because whilst we haven't had to make any major adaptations to the brand or the business, etc. And our early market research when we went over to Canada to scope the market, etc. We determined that actually, although it's North America, it's got a very European vibe, feel, culture to it, right?
Okay.
So that told us there's actually not a lot of adaptations we need to make. So really, we didn't make any major ones because we thought, look, let's land it as it is, and then understand what we need to make from there. So we didn't really have to make any major ones, but some good examples are initial feedback from the customers was it's not sweet enough.
Really?
Because if you remember, this is North America we're talking about, very close to America, right? And they like sugar, right? And what we realized was that the European taste palette is actually, we don't like as much sugar, within our desserts or treats over here in Europe, right? But Canada was very different. So we had to work with the suppliers and the manufacturers of all the stuff that, they were making for us to basically up the sugar levels, right? To increase them, make it a little bit more intense and sweeter. The other thing was portion size, right?
It's too small.
Yeah. Wow. Again, we thought because, Canada had a lot of European brands there already, and it had a very European type of vibe to it. We thought, okay, again, these portion sizes should be fine. But also at the early stage, I think we probably didn't want to make too many adaptations without really testing on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So we had to look at our portion sizes. So it's been a very interesting journey. It's been, we've learned lots. And we're now at that stage where we're
so the
just
moral
ready
of the
to
story
implement.
is, if you want a bigger portion, you go to Canada.
You go to Canada, or you go to America.
Yeah.
So, we're now at a place where, we've had them learnings, we've implemented them across all different areas of the business, and now we're ready for that rollout.
How do you think that the brand has now evolved since, your early days? Because you've changed the branding, the logo's changed. I mean, it looks a lot more like in your face kind of thing now.
Yeah.
So why did you, how did you come up with the fact that, okay, guys, I think we need to change the logo? Because that, changing the logo for any company that's already recognized, it's a big step.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I think there's a few ways I can answer that. I think first of all, any business that's been operating for over 10 years needs to, it naturally has to go through an evolution in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's their identity, whether it's the products they serve, and clearly the reason for that is once you've been trading a decade, right? Customer life cycle changes.
Yeah,
that's one example, right? So your customer habits change. I mean, even for us, being this side of COVID, right, a lot of our consumer habits have changed, right? How people interact with the business, right? The type of demographic that we now attract, right? You know, initially it was a large part of our demographic was millennials. Now it's Gen Z, right? So I think and this applies to, I think, any business owner in any realm. When you know your business well and you know what your customers want, you have to, you know, you've got to go through a period of evolution, right? So bringing it back to your question in terms of, and look, brands don't always get this right either. Sometimes they're late with it. Sometimes they never do it and then they die.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what I mean. You know,
But
it's
ultimately, the timing of it has to be very. It has got to be right. Yeah. And at least if you're late with it.
But it's a big change, though.
Yeah, of course.
You know, usually you have that little subtle change over years and years, and then you come up with something totally different. Like look at Coke, for example.
Yeah.
Their main kind of logo is more or less the same, but it's not much. But yours is from an italic to a very block straight. I mean, it looks nice.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So look, there's a good little story behind that, and the story behind that is obviously we had that scripted font at the beginning, which you know we were synonymous for, and that was, you know, across a number of different touch points within our business. But one of the common feedbacks we used to get was, we drove past your store, but we didn't spot the signboard, and we'd think, why is that? And then we came, amongst a number of things, we came to a realization that actually, in a certain setting, because of the scriptive font and it being so thin, it was getting missed.
Yeah.
Right. So really, what we wanted to do was we wanted to really just clarify the branding by changing, you know, adapting the font to make it, you know, clear. You know,
it stands out.
Read it out. Stand it. It's very clear.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the only reason why we changed it. There was a number of reasons. You know, we did it about 4 years ago. So by this time we're over a decade in, and we felt the brand, you know, required a refresh,
a new approach,
just
for the new consumers as well. Like you said, you know, people are always changing. They get bored of one
the same thing. Looking at the same thing, trying the same things from a product perspective. So you've got to keep it fresh.
Exactly. So how do you ensure the brand remains unique and appealing in a market that is becoming now increasingly competitive? Because there's, you know, just every corner there's a dessert shop coming up.
Yeah. I mean, look, as a brand, you've got to know your purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Brand, business, whatever term you want to call it. You have to know what your purpose is. Why do you exist? And why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you serving what you're serving? Right? And I think the answer kind of always, for anybody, should go back to that. Right? The marketplace in any business is always going to be competitive. Right? So taking that first point that I make, when we take that notion, okay, you know, from our business, from a heavenly perspective, you know, our mission in our brand is very clearly defined. Is to be the best dessert brand to work in, to dine in, for the guests, and to invest in for our franchise partners. Right. So we keep that at the forefront of everything. So as many decisions that we make within the business, so whether it's Imran making a decision on a location, right, that he's signing off on, or a design element that he's working on with our internal design team on a layout, to a marketing decision, to a new product decision, one of the things that we constantly, or we're trying to change an operational process for the betterment of the business, we constantly come back to that same mission and ask ourselves, well, actually, this action that we're taking, is it going to help us achieve that mission? Yeah. Right. So that's a very broad answer to that particular question, and you know, just coming to some kind of fine examples of that in terms of answers to that question is, look, you've got to continuously evolve. We've talked about this before. In every area of your business, okay, especially within the food space. So what I'm about to say now applies to the dessert sector. It applies to the grilled peri sector, the burger sector, any sector
across
the board, right? Is you've got to just keep evolving your processes, right? and innovating in every area of your business. Okay, so if that's within your marketing, it's within your marketing. If that's within your products, it's within your products, right? Yes, you've also got to understand two other things. You've got to understand what your competitors are doing and how are they doing it, right? But you shouldn't focus on that too much. You've got to have one eye or half an eye on that, so you're in tune with what's going on within the market. But also, you've got to be doing your own research and development.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding what's happening around the world in the dessert scene, right? What's happening in other markets? What's happening in the States? What's happening in the Far East? We don't tend to look at what's happening in Europe too much, because we feel not a lot of innovation comes out of Europe as such. But our team, frequently are doing market research, working with our supply chain to understand what flavor trends are coming up next year.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of these larger suppliers will do industry reports, trend analysis, and so on and so forth. So the answer back to the question is, there's probably 5 or 6 key points where we and any brand can really just ensure that they've got all of these on point.
Talking about competitors,
Yeah.
have you got I know it's one of those questions,
Yeah.
and have you got a favorite competitor that you like to go and have? You know what? Fair play. They're my competitors, but they've got good food.
No.
And
I say that, and I don't say that. I say that with the most respect.
I was hoping you're going to say that,
because I don't tend to visit competitors to try their food. Because I feel like I don't need to, because we're focused on what we're doing, right? Yeah, we keep an eye on competitor activity, but we're not interested in what a competitor's food tastes like.
Yeah,
because we're more interested in making sure that what we're bringing out next.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a fine balance, and I think you can get lost with this, where if your sole mission to trying to get better is to constantly try what your competitors are doing, then are you creating your own path, or are you trying to follow what your competitors are doing? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't.
It was just one of those.
I'm not much of a. I don't eat out that much anyway, especially in the last few years. As I've.
I mean, you look great. It looks like you're a man that doesn't eat desserts at all. You look in good shape.
Story behind that, which maybe we'll cover in a little bit. But I don't tend to eat out that much. And when I do, it's certainly not going to be at a competitor.
No, fair play.
I'll probably get hammered when I come into the office the next day.
Imran standing behind the door.
With it, yeah.
Where have you been? Right. Next part of the questioning is about franchise and franchise processes. Now, for example, if I wanted to take on a HD franchise, what do I need to have? What do you look into as a person, as a business person? Now, I've never done desserts before. To make sure that the brand, that I take your brand to the level where it needs to be. Because, of course, money is money. Anyone can come and give you the money. But is that person going to take that ethos of your company to the next level? Is that something that you look into? Or is it, okay, these are the processes. You come in, we give you training, you open your store, see you later.
I mean, look, there's definitely a baseline specification that we look for. If we didn't, we'd probably have double the amount of store numbers that we have. If we just gave it to anybody who turned up. And we've seen brands who have done that in the UK, and then have to at some point in the journey scale back because they ended up taking on the wrong franchise partners. It's a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
We don't scrutinize it. We don't overly scrutinize it, because if you become overly scrutinizing within your franchise recruitment process, in my opinion, and I say that because there's a number of ways of doing it, you kind of almost lock yourself out of recruiting franchisees, right?
Yeah.
And the key point here is recruitment, because that's what it is. And what I mean when I say that is, you can have the best interview with a prospective employee or a prospective franchisee, right? And it can all on surface look like it's great, but you only truly know when you get on the other side, right? So from our perspective, I mean, look, capital is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have somebody with all the right credentials, but if they don't have the capital to invest, then the conversation just doesn't go anywhere. So of course you've got to have an appropriate level of capital. we don't necessarily expect people to have industry experience of owning a business before, because that's exactly why people buy a franchise.
Yeah.
They buy a franchise because they don't have experience, and they want to buy a business model that's proven, and it's got systems, processes, and some guidance to go with it. For us, it's more about the individual.
Yeah.
Right. It's more about the individual. Yes, what they've done before is important because it
helps.
It helps. If they've got F&B experience from before, whether it's through owning their own business or whether it's through working within the F&B sector, that's always helpful because we've got less work to do then, right? Because they're already ahead and they understand the sector. But for us, it's more about the individual, understanding the journey that they've been on, understanding what their vision is for themselves right now. Because you get two types of people who apply for a franchise, right? Again, from my experience. And it's somebody who is already established in a number of different areas of business. They want to make an investment and, they want like a passive return. That doesn't really work. You've been in food long enough, you know that that doesn't always yield the best results, right? And then you've got somebody who is a first timer, they've perhaps got a pot of savings, they've worked all their life, saved, and then they're investing that because they want to, enter business and make a better future for themselves. So for us, it's about the individual, as I keep saying, but how we kind of extrapolate whether this individual is right for us or not is, we have a process, right? So we put them through a particular process. Then there is a series of, kind of interview, casual, formal, informal, kind of interview process that we have where, at the beginning it's, bang, 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 very specific questions to try to, like I said, derive and extrapolate, whether this individual will be the right person to take on our franchise. And again, like I said, it's a recruitment process, right? So part of it is going through, following the process. Part of it is actually going with your gut feel as well, because, your gut's your second brain and your gut feeling is there for a reason, right? So, there is, in my experience, there is no, super duper recruitment process that once you take somebody through, you're guaranteed to have the right partner on board. Yeah. It's a journey. It's a journey you have to go on.
So, and what kind of training and support do you provide once, say, okay, I've been selected now. Now what? Yeah. Now, I'm the new franchisee. I've just signed all my paperwork. The capital's gone and whatnot. So now what? Where do I go? Do you help in looking for a store for that person? Training in how to set up a shop, workers, support afterwards, once the shop's about to come on, and how to make desserts.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Look, we've got a process. It's developed over the years. It's got better and better, and we're constantly focusing on making it better. So from the point of view coming on board as a franchise partner, which effectively is buying the license, paying the fee, buying the franchise license for a territory that we've agreed with you on. Yeah. The initial thing that starts is site search. Okay. So that's the side of the business, or one of the sides of the business that Imran looks after. So he will engage with, our resource, our agent resource around the country. He'll give them, a spec.
What if, say for example, I've just signed up and I've got a place that say, look, I really like this place and I want to open it here.
That happens, and that's also absolutely fine, because that just takes a lot of time out of, the timeline. So in an instance like that, we'll go, or Imran rather will go, vet the site, do his due diligence. And
has there ever been a time where you think, no, this site's not good enough?
Loads of times. I mean, really? I think we probably say no to more sites than we say yes to.
Oh, fair enough.
Whether they've come through the franchise partner or whether they've been put on our desk through the agents that we work with around the country, because, location, right?
Yeah, everything's location.
Everything's location. So, hands down, we probably say no to more sites than we say yes to, which again is probably a feature of why, we're only at 60 at this stage, and we could have been at 80, 90 by now if we just opened the floodgates, gave a license to everybody and took, any location.
What are the pros and cons of that? Because there's loads of pros and cons.
Of what?
With just opening up stores?
I think there's more. I think there's more I don't think. I don't think there's any pros to it. So actually,
yeah.
hang on. Let me rephrase that. There's short-term pros.
Yeah.
Okay. So the short-term pros are you're going to grow faster. You're going to be able to on your brochure put a number of
I mean, it's great for the brand profile. You got 120 stores.
But that's what I'm saying. It's short term.
Yeah.
Right. Because the quicker you open, at some point, the quicker you're going to end up shutting them sites. There is no long term pros to it. There's more cons to it.
I got a question. Okay, what's a wild story that made you say no to a site?
A wild story.
A wild story. You think,
you know what? It's a little bit of a difficult that one because I don't look after the site finding site. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try and.
I mean, it must have come and share the story. Yusuf, look, this is what's happened today.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not uncommon for new franchise partners who, bless them, may not have experience in site finding or have experience in what the right to the wrong site is. Come up with with a wacky idea of where they want to open. I can't really think of any real examples. It's a good question, and if someone comes to me, we'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it.
But yeah, there's nothing really wacky that really stands out. If I'm honest, to my memory.
Roughly talking about now that you've kind of gone through, you've opened a store now. I've paid X amount. Roughly, just as an estimate.
Sorry, can we go back to your question because I'm conscious I never answered it all.
Yeah, go on.
So very quickly, we'll do the site finding.
Yeah.
We'll find the site.
Yeah.
We will help with lease negotiation, all the way through. Most cases we do. Most cases we'll go down. We'll have a look at the site. We'll vet it. We'll give it an okay. We'll do a feasibility study on it. Okay, which is running some projection P&Ls, benchmarking off various other locations that we have. We'll negotiate the rent with the landlord on behalf of the franchise partner.
Oh, that's good.
We do all of that. Once we've kind of got over that side and it's in legals, we'll get the shop fitters in. They'll start measuring. They'll start quoting. We'll start putting together design packs for the particular unit. If any planning needs to be taken care of, obviously all that's happening whilst the lease is in legals, right?
Yeah.
That stage finishes.
The builders come in.
They have 8-9 weeks turnaround time, which is usually an average for us to turn a fit out around. During this period, towards the end of the fit out, a recruitment process starts. Our training team will engage with the franchisee, help them from putting the ads out for the recruitment to doing the interviews for the team members. By this time, when that's done, the shop fitters are out, fit outs handed over. We go in, we conduct a 2-week training program with the franchise partners and their team members. We then proceed to an opening, and then that training team stays on site for generally about a week to help bed in the operation before we leave. And then the franchise partner is left in the hands of an area manager who then becomes their kind of support person for
That's fantastic. That's literally like you hold someone's hand and you walk them through to the other side.
Yeah. Because I think that's good support, right?
That's very good. That's very, very good.
Yeah. And look, 5 years ago, that process did not look. It was there, it existed, but it did not look as good as it does now. And 5 years from now, it will look very different because again, we're evolving. We're quite focused on evolving. Look, we don't get everything right. We're also humans, and I sit here and don't make any excuses for that. But that's a feature of business, right? And the feature of a growing brand. And but yeah, we're constantly trying to evolve and get better. Some things we get better, some things we don't. But again, that's a feature, right, of a growing business.
Roughly on financials, roughly how much does it cost to build say for example a typical 2,000 square foot
now?
Yeah.
I think,
of course, because before COVID,
it was different.
Things were totally different. It was a lot cheaper, but post COVID now,
2,000 square foot. I think you're probably looking close to 300k mark. Yeah, that does include franchise fee, which is at 20k at the moment for us. But But even if you take that
Do
out,
they get any discount if they watch this episode? 10% Fitpod discount.
no, they pay more. Joking.
I did try, guys, but it didn't work.
Yeah, you're close to 300k.
Okay.
Because that's just a feature of materials going up.
Yeah. That's a knock-on effect.
Labour
isn't it?
going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's everything. And roughly, in terms of expected time frame for a franchisee to start seeing a bit of profitability from there.
Look, that varies, right? I can't sit here and give you even an average really. Some franchisees, and before I answer that, the thing is, everybody also has a different vision or a perspective on what profitability looks like. So you may have a franchisee who is able to operate his business, pay his overheads, as in, staff, cost of goods, supply chain, whatever, rent, royalties, and service what would be quite a large bank loan as well, right? And have nothing else left over. However, the bank loan that you're servicing is profit, right? As an example.
Yeah.
Right?
Because there's something that you paying back.
Yeah, you're paying back. In other cases, we have franchise partners who are able to do all of that and then still have, profitability at the end of each month. So it just really depends on what you view as being profitable.
Yeah.
But look, right now it's just a difficult time for F&B anyway, right?
It is. Yeah.
If we look at some of the earlier franchise stores that we opened, they saw a return much quicker because we were living in a very different, pre-COVID world. Interest rates were a lot lower.
Everything was cheaper. Buying,
cost
selling
of goods,
was cheaper,
inflation wasn't where it is, and so on and so forth. So today, and I know, having spoken to lots of other brand owners, speaking to franchise consultants, many F&B businesses, brands that we all know very well, high street, have a similar challenge. But it's horses for courses. It varies. There's so many variables involved, which is why I can't give you an average, because it could be that you have a scenario where a particular franchise is trading really well, but the franchise partner actually isn't controlling their costs very well.
Yeah.
So in a scenario like that, where they could have been profitable within 6 or 9 months, they may not be for
a year,
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
and a lot of things comes down.
And I think you know that from your own experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things come down to how you handle things as well.
Yeah.
If you're just gonna take the back seat and not do anything and not keep an eye on things, then
And it's also about how active you are in your locality yourself. Like you guys have got you guys got multiple franchises, and your brand will your franchisor will be doing their side of the national marketing.
Yeah.
Right. But as franchise, you guys, the more you push your own business and your own activity locally,
the better. Yeah.
Almost what you put in is what you get out. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Now, talking about the future of the brand.
Yeah.
What are your future plans for the brand in terms of expansion, product offering, or entering new markets?
Ooh, really good question. So from a product perspective, we're just in the middle of launching a savoury range.
Oh, nice.
Okay, it's been a request for a number of years from our customers, or guests, as we refer to them as within the business. So we've launched a brunch menu, which went live, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. If my memory serves me right, being rolled out in different phases. So 2 phases, which is effectively 2 groups of our stores have rolled out, and our final phase rolls out in a number of weeks. So that's a new addition for the business. It was in response to long-standing requests from our guests for savoury, and we were kind of always conflicted because we were like, look, we're a dessert brand. Do we really want to go into savoury and lunch and so on and so forth? But again, we've got to adapt to the evolving marketplace, right? And what probably wasn't right for the business 5 years ago, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not right now. So that's that. From a dessert perspective, we're constantly evolving. We've got a winter campaign coming out in November. We do that all throughout the year. So we'll typically do something in most of the seasons, which is a new drink, limited edition, or a particular dessert. And it's designed to just ensure that we're giving something fresh all round, to our guests to help them, to ensure that they keep coming back, right? Because as you said, desserts is now one of the most saturated markets, out there.
Yeah.
So that's just from a kind of internal product perspective. From a growth perspective, obviously we're continuing to grow location wise. So we're at circa 60 at the moment in the UK. We've got I don't know 4 or 5 locations going into ShopFit as we speak. So they will result in openings. So we just continue to opening, trying to open in the right locations, partnering with the right franchise partners. We've got a target of reaching 75 locations globally by the end of next year. 100, by the end of next year, which the pipeline suggests that we're well on track to do. And when I say pipeline, I'm talking about UK pipeline plus the Canadian one.
Yeah.
We're waiting for our first South Asian location to go into ShopFit in Lahore.
Oh, nice.
In Pakistan.
I was going to ask you about
We
that.
didn't talk about that. So, we've taken a unit in a brand new shopping mall development in Lahore, and that is just awaiting. So
Fantastic.
the shopping centre is they're handing over the units, right? So the section that we're in, we're just waiting for us to get possession so we can start construction.
Fantastic.
So there's a couple of other irons in the fire that we've got, for South Asia. From a growth point of view, we're on the ground looking for sites in Germany. We've got a franchise partner who's signed for Germany. And we've got a number of irons in the fire because we're trying to break into the States as well, because that's a different world in itself.
You just call up your supplier, say, listen, we need more sugar. How much more sugar can you give me?
I wish it was as easy as that.
We're going to States.
Look, we've got growth plans like any business should have, and we've got a strategy that we're deploying to meet them growth plans. But look, this is business, right? So you have a strategy and you have a plan. Which box was it that said everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face?
Then he punched in the face.
Punched in the face.
Was it Joshua or someone?
Somebody said it.
Someone said it. Oh no, somebody. I think was it Mayweather.
Yeah,
someone
possibly.
said it. Yeah.
Somebody said it. But
everyone's got a plan until they get smashed in the face.
My point being, when you take that analogy and you put it into the context of business, every business will have a plan. It will have a strategy, and the punch in the face is basically the adaptation that you need to do because something hasn't quite gone to plan.
Yeah.
So whether that was Brexit or inflation or COVID or whatever else, that's you're constantly trying to dodge.
So how do you see this the dessert industry now evolving in the next 5 years, and how do you prepare for that change for the next 5 years?
I think like any sector, what will happen is those who don't have anything real to offer from an experience perspective, who have just jumped on the bandwagon of some of the more established players in the market, I think they will fizzle out, because that always happens. We've seen that in let's take the fried chicken industry for example, right?
Yeah.
So I think what will happen is the industry will automatically start to consolidate, right? So some of the larger, more established players that have got market share will still be around because they are the ones who are the most experienced in the industry because of how long they've been around, and obviously have the resource and the finances to continuously grow, develop, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think there will be a bit of a clear up. We will be left with
a handful.
A handful of brands that will probably then end up separating into two categories. So those that are considered as like the standard bearers within the dessert sector, and then you'll have like a subcategory of like brands that are dotted around, that they're okay, they get along for one reason or the other, or they get on for one reason or the other, because there's a market space for everybody, right? And of course, what you got to remember is even in the dessert market space, there is room for those who want more of a a premium experience, which is what we offer, versus a non-premium one. And there's brands in the market that offer that as well, right? And then everything else in the middle. So I think the market will kind of consolidate itself. We will be left with, a handful of brands that will just kind of, continue evolving. And then I think from another dimension, we're certainly looking at this about how we're adapting our model for over the next 5 years in line with market changes. So there's there's various things that we're doing internally and researching and considering and mulling over, but brands will need to adapt because especially in a post-COVID world, everything's digital, right? Consumers these days, especially the Gen Z, right? They would much rather rock up to a venue, whatever it is, right, and not have to interact with the person, right, and order through a tablet or their phone or a QR code and all of that kind of stuff, right? So for us, we've traditionally been a business that has offered table service, right, because we've always been about hospitality and so on and so forth. So for us, it's about trying to understand, well, how do we adapt to the needs of the new customer base that we have, whilst not losing the essence of the experience within our business, but also by adopting tech and so on and so forth. So that's the bigger challenge. Products and this and that, they come and go. You get some right, you get some wrong, but the bigger challenge is looking, like you said, 5 years ahead, and that's always a good time frame to make plans for. I
next
believe.
5 years.
Next 5 years, because you can always almost see it,
see what's happening.
You can see it, and you can plan for. And when you make a 5-year plan, chances are you're going to get the first 3 years of it right. Okay, and then you'd probably need to readapt a little bit because things are changing so fast.
Very fast.
Look at AI, for example. How AI is just changing anything and everything. And even we're now looking at it and considering there's various pieces of AI that we use within our business, not necessarily from a in location kind of customer experience point of view, but from a head office perspective, within our processes to ensure that we're more efficient and so on and so forth. So you've got to have your eye on all of these things. You've got to have your eye on what you need to do next, whilst also having an eye on what you're doing now, because you can't focus on one more than the other. Yeah,
definitely. New projects and partnerships. And now I saw something on your Insta story. You working with Lavazza as well now? Or there's something that was happening there, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And who would be your dream partner to do something with? As a, heavenly collabs with whoever to bring out this wow thing. What would you be like, okay, you know what, I'd do that. For example, Nike collabs with Dior or something like that. I don't know.
It's a very good question. And I can probably answer it in so many different ways.
Go for it. Heavenly Dessert collabs with Chanel. I don't know. Sweet bags or something.
You know what it is? Honest answer?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay?
It's a very,
because it's so broad,
yeah.
Right? Because, and I'll tell you why I don't know. Because A, I've not thought about that, okay? B...
Okay,
look,
can you, if you ever do that, I want royalties.
B, look, I'll give you an example. We can, like, if it ever happened, we could collab with a designer brand, clothing brand, or whatever, right? And you see this happening, right? A lot of collaborations are happening between food and like cross sector collaborations, right?
Totally different. They'll be totally different. Yeah,
and that would be a really big deal.
Yeah,
but we could, like, I don't know if Heavenly's ever did something with LV as an example, right?
Yeah. So you got the whole range is just LV.
Yeah, that'd be really crazy, for example, right? But at the same time, if we did a collab with Ferrero, for example, that would also be really big.
It'd be amazing,
right? So the honest answer is actually, I don't have anything on my radar that I could say, I've got a mission, or us within our business, and I have a mission that this is the brand we really want to collaborate
Well,
with.
now just put that dot on your radar.
But
let's make it happen.
Look, for us, and I'll tell you why we don't think like that, because we're not interested in doing collabs with any brand for vanity purposes.
No, it's not that. It's just like this is what the Gen Z now
Yeah,
want, don't they? They want to see
and
that.
And I'm not saying we would never do it, but what I'm saying is we don't have any of these dreams to do it with any of like these, the way it happens at the moment.
Yeah.
Solely from a vanity perspective. Like when we're looking at a collab, because we have done collabs, and I'll give you a really good example of one. When we're doing a collab, or we're considering a collaboration, we look at, okay, is this going to, like I said to you at the beginning, is this in line with our business mission?
Mm-hmm.
Does it work for those who work within the brand, those who dine with us, right, or those who invest with us? So that's that. It always has to answer that question. And about probably 18 months ago, maybe about 2 years ago, we did a brand collaboration with Itsu.
Yes.
High street brand, Itsu, you're familiar with it, kind of sushi on the go type thing.
Yeah.
It was founded by the by the guy who Julian Metcalf, who founded Pret,
Mm-hmm.
who now founded Itsu. So, a very well known high street brand, savory, this bao buns, this and that.
Yeah.
They released a chocolate bao bun, right, within their brand or within their business. And we, fortunately, through knowing, mutual connects, were able to secure a collaboration with them, right? Brand to brand collaboration, where we engaged with their head office and a lot of their senior leadership. And we ended up putting, and they're still on our menu as an exclusive collab, them chocolate bao buns as a plated dessert, right?
Okay.
So a collab like that brings real value because the guests are able to, come in and actually have that particular product. Our franchise partners are able to make revenue from that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a proud moment for us too. So, but if we ever do anything crazy,
let me know.
Then you can have the royalties from that.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll be a very rich man if it's ever a big one. It'd be nice though. I mean, can you imagine going?
Look, it is the way forward, and I definitely agree with you because that.
I remember Adidas done something with Ravi, that restaurant.
The restaurant in Dubai,
In
yeah,
Dubai.
100%. And it worked, right?
It was everywhere.
But you see it in the designer world where like Nike collab. The watch brand Casio, they did one with a really big designer brand, and you when I looked at it, you think, right, I didn't see that coming, and you wouldn't put the two together. But it's
happens.
working, and
yeah.
Collaboration at the highest level, cross sector is working.
I've got a few quick questions for you, right? So, how do you come up with one of the best desserts that your customers will love? Quick fire questions these are.
Look, market research. We have a good loop of feedback where we're constantly hearing from our customers or guests. So predominantly it's a combination of two. It's our own market research combined with what we're being asked for, and give them what they're asking for.
What's the weirdest dessert you ever came up with and thought, what the hell was I thinking?
We don't come up with any weird desserts, I'm afraid.
I'm sure in that's the whole R&D.
You want to? Okay, let me answer that in a different way. So I'll tell you about something that was an experiment that.
Yeah,
okay,
anything.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any experiment,
Okay.
of course.
So, Chris, who's kind of the head guy who does all of our development of product and so on and so forth, I don't know, about 2 years ago, has an idea that what I want to do is I want to get a croissant, and I want to bake it in a waffle baker, and I'm going to call it a croissant, right? A croffle, sorry.
Yeah.
Get a croissant,
Bake it
in a waffle baker, and call it a croffle.
right.
And it's going to be this hybrid product, and I want to do a limited edition. And I said, Chris, are you sure about that? Because he said, yeah, I'm sure. I think this will work. We do it. No one else has done this before. We do it. Put it on as a limited edition, and it flies off the shelf. Right? It's become a staple. One of our highest selling categories. Right? On our dessert menu from a product line perspective, and I think now probably almost every other dessert place followed suit. our competitors from small to large, everybody put it on. So that's one example.
Yeah.
I can't really say we do weird desserts because we think about look.
Do you ever question Chris now with his?
No.
Chris is like, I'm thinking of doing this. Yeah, go for it, mate.
Yeah. Look, the reason why we don't the reason why there's no answer to that question is a lot of thought goes behind putting products together, right?
Of course.
You'll end up with a weird dessert, right? If no thought goes behind it and you just get this, mash it up and put a dessert together. So,
Well, it must have happened. That's what you know about it. But anyway, next question. What has been the biggest challenge to the business?
Look, we're very grateful, right, of our journey. Okay, and we see challenges as opportunities, right, to get better, and whatever else have you. So I can't give you one major challenge that we've had that either nearly crippled us or whatever else have you. Look, COVID was a challenge, 100%, right,
100% for everyone,
for everybody, right, because as somebody who is a brand owner, right, or somebody who owns a particular outlet, whether it's an independent or whether it's part of a franchise, when that moment came and we were told, right, whatever date in March when Boris said everybody's going in lockdown, the same question came into everybody's minds, right? What's going to happen now?
I know.
What's going to happen to business and this and that and whatever else have you. So look, definitely COVID was a challenge, but I think we navigated it pretty well. We still grew throughout COVID. So over 2020 and 2021, I think we opened about 18 branches.
Wow.
Combination of those that were already in construction and those who had just been handed over and were on the cusp of opening, plus some of our existing franchise partners had confidence within the business, and took advantage of the fact that delivery business was booming and so on and so forth. So a lot of our new restaurants opened on a delivery only basis during lockdown. So like, whilst it was challenging because we didn't really know at the beginning where we were going to be heading, because nobody knew where the country was heading, we were actually able to pull it together and spin it on its head and create that challenge, turn that challenge into what became our biggest opportunity. And like I said, we've had the biggest growth spurt in that particular period. So I mean, and then apart from that, you've always got smaller challenges going on, right? So inflation right now, okay, it's hammering the bottom line, it's hammering the top line, because it's customers who would come in twice a week now might come in every other week, as an example, because people don't have that disposable income as they used to. So there's always these little smaller challenges that come up. But yeah, COVID is probably the biggest one. But as I say,
I mean, if a business can survive COVID, then
yeah. And look, like I said, we have the mindset where we see challenges as opportunities, and we don't, whenever a challenge comes up, we don't sit back and cry about it. We look at it. We try to derive the learnings from a particular challenge to understand, actually, has this happened because we could have done something better. And if that's the case, okay, cool, understand the learning, implement it, and let's move on.
What's the biggest change from day one to today for you?
Within the business?
Within the business, yeah. Your processes, the design, the store designs, because I've seen some of them, they're just, mashallah, just fabulous. They're huge. They look amazing stores, I
mean, change is constantly happening, in a number of different areas. I think the biggest standout thing, which isn't necessarily change, is just like the growth and the story for the brand. Opening one location, in inner suburbs of Birmingham, in 2008, which it was a different world, right? And I talked about this on another discussion that I had a few weeks ago about us opening when it was a different world. And just one example I gave is that today brands can't even really operate, consumer brands can't even operate without TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah,
them two platforms didn't exist when we initially opened. I think Instagram was founded in, like, I don't know, 2013, 29, so 2012 or something like that. Even no, 2013 or something.
Yeah. 2008. There wasn't nothing.
Instagram and TikTok didn't even exist. It was Facebook was kind of the place.
Snapchat, was it?
I don't know about Snapchat. We don't really use that for business purposes. But it was Facebook and Twitter that were the two predominant social media platforms. And I remember this because they were the two platforms that our marketing was prevalent on, right? And if you remember, Facebook had that whole thing at that time where you'd go to a venue and you'd check in.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And at that time when we had no marketing budgets or anything like that, our customers did the marketing for us by utilizing these, checking in, and somebody would see, oh, NASA's at this particular venue, oh, that looks good, and then that would, cause a chain reaction of somebody else visiting and all of that. So I think the biggest thing, that standout thing, if I reflect back, it's just the growth from that one location to now
60, 70
circa 60. I mean, look, once upon a time we would like internally sit and think, when we were at like 15, we'd think, wow, reaching 50 is like, it seems like such a mountainous task,
long
right?
way away.
And now that we're at 60, the ambition level is leveled up, and now we're saying, right, this doesn't really feel like much of a significant achievement because we're now looking at 100. And just the sheer fact that we're able to say, look, whilst there's still lots of opportunities available, we operate between as far north as Aberdeen, all the way down to like Brighton and Southampton, and anywhere in between, which is a brand. Two guys have grown over the last God knows how many years, just through sheer hard work, passion, grit, resilience, determination, all of these fundamental aspects that you need to have for day-to-day life anyway.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd answer that.
What's your go-to thing on your menu?
That changes from a week to week basis.
No, let's just stick to
okay,
the
at the
one.
moment.
Yeah, no.
I don't have a go-to. I'm not that individual who. So I'll give you an example. I see you have different types of people, right?
Yeah.
So you have somebody who will go to a particular place and have the same thing over and over. I'm not that individual, right? So when I go to wherever, whether it's Pepe's or Heavenly's or whatever brand I go to, right, I will eat based on how I feel, and it's the same with Heavenly's, right?
Yeah.
And I usually will go through a phase. So there'll be a phase where I've gone through where I'm hammering a milk cake, right? But more recently, in recent years, I developed a number of food intolerances, right? So gluten and dairy and so on and so forth. So that's really actually pulled me back in indulging like I used to. So now typically I'll have something from our menu that's suitable for me. So my go-to, which for a number of years now actually has been, if I reflect upon it, is our a brownie explosion, which is a bit of a it's a bit of an iconic product for Heavenly's, and those listening will most certainly, those listening who know the brand and have visited on a number of occasions and have been coming to us for a number of years know that the brownie explosion is a bit of an icon. So I now have that because our brownie is both gluten-free and vegan,
right?
And you couldn't tell. And then of course put a bit of dark chocolate and fruit on it for the healthy element.
Last question for you. I don't want to take too much of your time. Quick, typical day of a co-MD of Heavenly's. What time do you wake up? I mean, I know you've been into your fitness as well. Throw that in. How does that help your mindset? How you make decisions? How important is fitness in your daily life?
Good couple of questions there. You might have to clarify them if I go off on a bit of a tangent, because I've got a habit of going off into a bit of a tangent. I mean, look, typical day starts very early. I'm typically in the gym.
Well, you were late today, but nevertheless.
It's a weekend.
Oh, yeah.
It's Saturday. It's Saturday.
I was trying to get you in there, but...
look, day typically starts very early. Having been somebody who trained in the evening for most of my life, I'm now a morning person and I could never go back to training in the evening. So typically I will get in the gym anything for any time between sort of 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning. I'm in the gym probably about 5 or 6 times a week. So the day always starts off in the gym, and I'll come on to the importance of that, or we'll come back to the importance of that. After the gym, straight to the office, which fortunately is just over the road from the gym as well. And look, every day definitely varies, right? Monday is speaking to the team, right? So we've got over the years we've been fortunate to build a really solid senior management team. So Mondays for me consists of checking in with all the guys, understanding what their focus is for the week, what challenges that they may have, what help they may need from me, as an example, with that. And then, so that's usually Monday. Monday is kind of like management meetings, understanding, making sure everybody's kind of aligning on the week's goals and so on and so forth. And then every other day is a mixture of things, right? So the day always starts off in the gym, and then obviously straight to the office. So I don't travel a lot at the moment around the country because it's not something I have to do. As part of what I do, Imran travels a fair bit because of locations and site search and whatever. So, and then every day is a mixture of meetings. They could be internal, right, with various departments. They could be external, with service providers, speaking to new companies who want to do business with us because they've got a particular product that they think they can, that can add value to the business. As directors, me and Imran converse almost on a daily basis because we're back and forth firing questions and answers and so on and so forth. Part of the day is always firefighting something, right? Because when you are in a state of circa 60 locations, whilst most things are going and heading in the right direction, there's always challenges and pitfalls and so on and so forth. So there's always an element of firefighting, and some of the ops team who will end up listening to this will be able to resonate with what I'm saying. So some days the firefighting is more than other days, and it's really just day to day keeping an eye on what is happening within the business and really navigating the ship to make sure that it's heading in the right direction. I'm usually in the office probably till about I would leave anywhere between 6 and 7. Because again, family duties and responsibilities, call.
Outside of work, yeah.
And whilst balance doesn't really exist, you've got to try to, give dues to every responsibility that you have, and your business is one of them. And then of course your family and so on and so forth. So that's a typical day and that's a typical week. Pretty repetitive, but also colourful enough within each
and it's
week.
very sweet.
And look, finally, I think I just want to finish off on an important point, which is part of your question as well. Yeah. I'm close to my 40s now, and I've been doing this for well over a decade. I've been in and out of business for nearly 18 years now, and if there's anything that I can part with as advice to listeners, it's amongst other things. So like your relationships, faith, right? Your health is one of the biggest things that you cannot and you should not neglect. And I don't only talk about your physical health, I talk about mental health, because mental health quite often is brushed under the carpet, especially in the South Asian community. Yeah. But even in general, when it comes to men and whatever else have you, we could probably do a whole podcast on that, right? It's that much of a subject. So, so health is the most important thing. If you are healthy as an individual in your body and your mind, then ultimately it's not a guarantee that everything else is going to be healthy in your life. But what it does is it gives you the best possible opportunity to make sure that everything else is healthy. Because when being healthy essentially means instilling a level of discipline into your physical activity. And your nutritional activity, right? And the nutrition one is always the one that suffers, because I've trained for a number of years, but actually I've only been on point with my nutrition probably over the last 3 years and taken it really seriously. And only now I realize, actually, had I done both of these in parallel with the same level of focus and attention over the last 10 years, like my performance in a number of different areas would have just been, phenomenal. So yeah, look, health is very important, physical and mental. Nutrition is also very important. Sleep. We could probably do, like I said, a whole new podcast just on this. Yeah. But my parting advice is, look, before anything else, take care of your health, because it really is the cornerstone to success in anything.
So Yusuf, tell me the journey you had being on Apprentice. That was a couple of years ago, right?
The episode featured 2022, I think.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. And it was, industry experts are here, and then all of a sudden, I see your face on there. I was like, I know him.
What's this guy doing on there?
Yeah, you're talking about experts. Talking about experts here. What's he doing here? So how did that come about? And how did it make you feel? Think, whoa, hang on a second. What's going on here?
That is a really, really good story. And in short, what happened was, so going back to 2021, I think it was probably springtime 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the office. I get a phone call from a number, as you do. I'm in a meeting. I don't pick it up. Right?
Yeah.
I don't recognize it. It's like a landline number. I don't pick it up. I come off that meeting. I have a missed call from Imran, because he gets the same phone call probably before or after me.
Yeah.
And he says, so before I call him back, I listen to the voice note, and it's somebody from the BBC or whatever else. So a bit muffly. I can't really understand it. So I return Imran's call, and he says, I've just had a bit of a call which was a little bit odd, and it was somebody from the BBC. And I said, yeah, I've just picked up a voice note too. And he said, it was somebody who said that they were from the BBC, from the business enterprise production team or something like that, and they're running a series at the moment. It's in filming. They can't tell us what it is, and they would like us to feature on a particular episode, right? And what they're asking, and it's something to do with business and whatever else, and they're asking if it's something we'd be interested in. And at the moment, they can't tell us no more. So Imran goes to me, and I think one of us said to each other, well, BBC, who could it be? It's either Dragon's Den or Apprentice. And we were like, nah. Honestly, right? Look, we're so focused. We've always just been so focused on growing our business and our brand and doing right by it on a day-to-day basis. Like sometimes, you don't understand the scale, perhaps, of what the business may be out there, even just from a perception perspective, right? So we were like, look, it can't be any of these guys. Like, why would they be calling us up for? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, let's explore it, because we are the type that like to don't say no to opportunities and explore. So we go back to these guys. This guy, I can't remember what his name was, and we said, look, yeah, we're happy to explore more. So he says, cool, I'm going to send you over some documentation. You're going to sign an NDA, XYZ, blah 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 blah. And once you got that back to me, we'll then disclose more to you. So anyway, paperwork comes over, NDA, this, that, we read it through, you can't say nothing, blah 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 blah. Send it back, get more information from them, and they're like, oh, it's The Apprentice. And that was the moment when we were like, whoa. So this was springtime, 2021. They were like, okay, so look, the show's The Apprentice. We want you to feature on the final, because one of the candidates who has made the final. So up until this point, the public don't know about this.
Yeah.
Because it's still in filming, right? They said the candidates made the final, and one of the candidates that's made the final is from your sector, right? So it was a young lady from up north who had a dessert parlour and wanted to do bits and bobs.
Yeah.
And that was her business plan for Lord Sugar. So they said, we're inviting you on as an expert panelist to advise, the Lord Sugar on what you think is the right thing for him to do, amongst other panelists as well. So we were like almost under oath. We couldn't say anything, right? And we kind of almost stuck to that. I think, I don't know if I'll get into trouble for this, but we all went home and told our families, but very select, right?
Yeah, it's standard. I was going to ask you, did you go home, tell your kids, or
I think
your wife?
We went home, and I think Imran told a few people in his family, just a few, so it doesn't get out, and I did the same. And then I feel like we might have told one or two people within the business, like some of our senior guys, right? But that was a bit later on too, because they called us in spring. The filming wasn't happening till a little bit later on in the year.
Yeah.
Right. So date comes. I think it must have been like September or something, because the person has reached the final, and then they're recording it a little bit later. So I think, I don't know, it must have been August, September, well over
Whatever, yeah.
in the year. So we go down to London, drive down, we got instructions to where to come, what time, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So, both of us go down and to this recording studio where they were recording the final. We go in, speak to the producers. They tell us how the day is going to go. And basically it was a whole day of filming almost, right? So we so there was a number of panelists on there. We all got an opportunity to ask questions. My questions weren't aired for whatever reason. They probably didn't like them. I don't know, even though the BBC gave me the questions.
Right.
Yeah, so you actually don't have any real autonomy in asking the questions you want to ask to the candidate.
Yeah,
right?
I heard a lot about this. This whole program is just
Quite a-
fixed kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it started like that, but
Because I had Dr. Asif on there from the
because
recent
he was
one.
on the last thingy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was saying this whole thing, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't even do your own like logos, or they give you selected colours or selected clip or something. What's the
quite a
bloody
lot
point
of the
that?
show is
Yeah.
scripted, which is what we realised. So when we got down there, we were given a handful of questions that we could only ask them. So that's when you start to realise, okay, well, what we
It's a
see on
waste,
TV
yeah.
is actually
It's
quite
a bit of
different.
a
But
waste.
lo and behold, look, it was a really good experience.
Yeah.
Just being there, it was an honour to represent the business.
Yeah,
right,
yeah, of course.
on mainstream TV. It was honour to represent the community, right? South Asian community, Muslim community, on such a stage.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
definitely.
Mainstream. We got lots of love, lots of words of encouragement from like around the country. People who knew us, family, friends, acquaintances, and so on and so forth. Because I think to perhaps other people, it was just good to see
a brown Pakistani guy.
brown, South Asian, Muslim individual who is part of a well-known business brand enterprise going on there and representing. Because look, let's face it, whilst things are changing, South Asians, we don't really have we don't get representation on mainstream platforms like that. Although it's changing now, but if you look back historically,
Yeah.
so look, it was a good experience. We were able to converse with Mr. Sugar. He did ask my opinion on this Harpreet, I think her name was, her
Yes.
business, her
Yeah,
business plan. When I thought of it, I gave him my thoughts.
Yeah, she's my competitor. It's absolutely shocking.
And
She should come and work for me instead.
and then she ended up winning it.
Yeah,
She ended up
did,
winning
yeah.
it. And then that had quite a lot of profile around it. And then I remember reading somewhere last year that Lord Sugar pulled his investment.
Really?
Yeah, but that aside, it was a really it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. It was good for the brand. And like I said, for me, the most important thing, what I took away from that wasn't anything necessarily for myself, but it was just being able to represent
Yeah.
young, Muslim, Pakistani, South Asian business individual, and kind of,
No, it was nice to see you on there. And I said to my wife, I know him. And she's like, really? I said, yeah, I know.
I got lots of messages straight after.
I sent you a message as well.
You did, yeah. I mean, look, there was a number of people who knew that I was gonna, because closer to the final, we were able to market it. So from a heavenly perspective, we were allowed to market the fact that we as a brand were going to be on
Apprentice.
on The Apprentice. So I think we did a little bit of a campaign on like our Instagram and whatever else, a bit of a build up, sneak preview type thing. But look, I got a lot of messages, and it was nice.
Must have been nice.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Lots
Really
of words of encouragement and whatever else. So it was nice.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, thank you very much, Yusuf. Thank you for your time. May Allah bless you with everything, with all you're doing, everything else around, family, home, business, everything. Fantastic. Thank you for your time as well. And I hope, someone has picked up something inspirational and they go out there and smash their goals.
Look,
that's the whole point.
That's the objective, isn't it? Even
Yeah.
with what you're doing and what we're doing, those of us who have the fortunate to be able to make some level of progress in whatever field, business, commerce, whatever, we have a responsibility to give back in a number of different ways, right?
Yeah.
And yes, the one is, as Muslims, we do that via zakat, right? We do that via sadaqah, we do that via charity, etc. But giving back shouldn't just be confined to that type of activity. Just sharing your journey, your experience. If it can inspire an individual, and if we can just each inspire one individual who goes ahead, makes a change,
He
and
might
then
inspire
goes on
two
to
people.
he multiplies, he benefits other people, he creates jobs, he is then able to succeed financially, for example, and give more charity. Then hopefully we've got a portion of that through
Absolutely.
through some reward, right?
100%. Well, thank you very much, and God bless you, Ro.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.